going to discuss pellets and slugs and what the differences are, and different brands, different configurations, and maybe help someone. I don't know. It took me a while to learn. Um, these Crossman are the typical pellet. These are hollow point. You buy them at Walmart um, for $7 for 500. Pellets are accurate with very little or very slow uh, twist rate. And the reason why is you have a center of gravity, which is up about where it bounces, is up here toward the head because you got a hollow skirt. The other thing is, because the skirt is hollow, it creates a vacuum under behind it, so it pulls back on the back while the mass is pulling it forward, so it makes a very stable projectile. Now, they like flying somewhere between 870s and 980 feet per second, it seems like to me, at least from my experience. And they require very little, no to very little twist to make up for the imperfections. And you say, well, what's that? Well, if there's an imperfection that slows one side or the other down, if it's twisting, if the imperfection is causing it to go to the right, and it goes that way for a little ways, and then it turns to where that imperfection is on the left, now it's going to pull it back the other way. So even though it's kind of oscillating back and forth here, overall, when you get to the target, you're going to be pretty close to where you was aiming at. Now, you have different shapes of pellets that's a varying has a varying amount of where those are of weight. Now, these two here are pretty similar. Both of these pellets fly good in everything that I've shot. If you look at them, they have a pretty long body, and then the skirt's back here on the back. Well, it still has the center of gravity is up high, up toward the nose, and the center of force is in the back, and but not quite as much as your regular Diablo pellet. So they're not quite as stable. Not that I've seen them ever be unstable, but in theory, they're a little less stable. You'll find that different guns like different things. And you have a few that like just about everything you put through them. These H&N Barracudas have shot well out of everything I've shot. These Zach Jumbo and PCPs shoot well. They don't shoot well on the. I have a Beeman brake barrel that doesn't seem to like them very well. These AEA center punch Diablo, they shoot well in anything that I put them through. Now, let's go to these. We're going to go to some slugs, and there's a difference in the slugs. And by the way, I'm out of these, out of the Long Range Masters. I love these things for the Karma EQ. The gun was designed for these, the AEA ammo, and these things shoot awesome out of it. Now, a slug, you can have different configurations, way more configurations than on the pellets. Now, if you look at this, these right here have a spire point, they're a solid point, and they do have a skirt. However, I have not found a gun that I can get these things to shoot out a keyhole on every gun that I've ever put them through. Doesn't matter what it is. At least at 40 yards, I've shot them up just to get rid of them. However, it may be just the diameter. Now, once you get to slugs, the diameter of the slug is much more important because it doesn't always have the skirt that grabs the end and then the front as well. Now, those there had a skirt, and these dead center, they have a cupped bottom. And it's not really a skirt, it's just a cup on the very bottom. And they still have a fairly spire point and a hollow point. Now, once you start talking about longer bullets, then your center of gravity starts coming a little bit farther forward, and your center of force moves back. And it's actually, if you have a rebate or not a rebated, you have, well, I'll cover it in a minute, but just be aware, the longer that pellet, that slug is, you can get in some trouble. I'll cover it here in just a second. Now these AEAs, you see the ridges on here. Well, those ridges, they reduce the bearing surface, which reduces the friction, so that it allows them to gain the maximum velocity, because you still have seals in there that keeps it from going around. They also have a cupped bottom. And the cupped bottom is important because when you hit it with the pressure, that cup will blow out against the sides of the barrel and fill the lands and grooves and stops any air from going around. And so it makes it efficient to use all the energy that you have out of a gun. Now, we're going to go to what I started to say just a second ago, is these are some cast bullets, or cast slugs that I've made. And these are the ones that are made for the Hugin GK1 and K1. If you look at them, they're a boat tail. Now this here you see on this boat tail, it's also got a little bit of where I cut off the spew, an imperfection. At long ranges, that'll burn your behind. You'll go crazy. So it also has these ridges that I was talking about earlier, and that's to reduce the amount of surface area catching on your rifle or your lands, and it reduces the friction, so it doesn't take so much power to force it down. Now, when you have this boat tail, you no longer have that vacuum at the very back of the slug, because that boat tail allows the airflow to come back in and close it off. And what happens is that shifts that center of force behind the center of gravity. Once you do that, if you don't have a fast enough twist rate, that slug will just go crazy. And it makes it unstable if you don't have enough twist rate, and that's when you'll start seeing this thing, you know, and where it'll spiral, or if it gets really bad, it'll keyhole where it's hitting this way. So you can only shoot this if you have fast enough rifling for what you got. Now the other thing about this is if you take some slugs will have what they call a rebated. If you give me just a second, I'll grab one. Now if you look at this, you can see it's got a step down spot before the boat tail. And that kind of gives you the best of both worlds. It kind of gives you a little bit of drag, but not quite as much, and it also allows it to keeps you from cutting the. It's not so much in a pellet. but or a slug, but in a rifle, that the air, it doesn't have that skirt to flare out and catch the lands and the grooves, so you can have air come around your slug, and you lose that air because it goes around past the slug. So with it being a regular flat port, even if it doesn't have a cup, if you've got good pressure, it'll still push on it and looks like a hammer hitting the end of it, and it'll cause it to swell out just a little bit and catch the rifling. So that's something else you need to look at. So when you start trying to pick the ammo for your gun, you want to make sure that you have a fasten enough twist rate. And you know, it varies from gun to gun. For some reason, one gun will shoot well, the other won't, and it can be the exact same make and model. However, there are stabilization calculators online that you can use that will tell you if you're stable. Now, the faster you push a bullet, the more stable it'll be with the twist rate or a slug. But it isn't a huge factor. Even the altitude. If you're a higher altitude, because the air is thinner, it won't push on the bullet or resist the bullet as much and cause it to spin out. Not quite as bad. So you just have to be careful. The longer your bullet is, the higher ballistic coefficient you get, but also the harder it is to stabilize. So I hope this answers some people's questions. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day, and we'll keep the lights on for you.